welcome to the newest episode of the Debate Mates. I believe this is Debate Mates number 6, so it's not really a big moment, but still good to keep track of where we're going. So for all the viewers that have been watching, you know that recently we added a new Debate Mate member, Jack Cashwell, and as we promised, Nathan would be coming back unscathed. So enough jibber jabber. Let's get into more jibber jabber.
I actually had a question. Can I start off with a question?
Yes.
I wanted to ask both of you. I was looking at the standings and the rankings this morning. I want to know what's more surprising: the Hornets at the 6th seed or the Sacramento Kings at the 8th seed?
You want to take this first?
Sure, I'd say the Kings, because the Hornets have always been your kind of average Eastern Conference team. You know, they're always in. They've never really been a playoff team, but they've always been just short 9th or 10th seed or something along those lines. So it's surprising to see them not just in the playoffs, but in the playoffs as a 6th seed. But I think it's more surprising to see the Kings, who have consistently over the past few seasons, especially since losing Cousins last year, been just such a bad, bottom team in the West, doing so well, especially in a competitive Western Conference.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. The Eastern Conference is very weak this year.
It's weak. It's always been weak.
Yeah, but especially this year with LeBron going west, and the East is definitely top heavy this year. They probably have more teams that are able to contend. But when you get to the bottom, these are teams that you can get free wins on every single game. So I'm more surprised about the Kings as well, because they didn't really add anyone big this offseason other than Marvin Bagley. De'Aaron Fox has been great for them.
I mean, I knew he was a good, his rookie season was last year, right?
Yeah.
Right. I knew he was good, but I didn't think he was as good as some of the other people in that draft. And it's surprising that he's led his team to an 8th seed. I'm really impressed with his play this year.
Yeah, and guys like Buddy Hield, Bogdan Bogdanovic.
Buddy Hield comes off the bench, doesn't he?
I'm not sure about that.
I'm pretty sure he does.
Who would come in as their shooting guard, though? Who's their other shooting guard?
Bogdan Bogdanovic.
Is it Bog?
Yeah.
Bogdanovic is a little big to be playing the
Yeah,
team.
can you put him at the... I thought he was
You put him at the
small,
3. Yeah.
the small forward.
And they have guys like Willie Cauley-Stein, who's been playing really well.
I actually kind of like Willie Collins.
I like him a lot.
They kind of do it by committee, but then they have... Because if you really think about it, De'Aaron Fox is not an elite scorer. He might have one night where he gets you 20, but he's more... we're more accustomed to him getting maybe 15 to 20 points per game. So it's really impressive to me. Whereas a team like the Hornets, the only reason they're the 6th seed is because Kemba Walker has been absolutely carrying them. And on the nights where he doesn't do well, like he scored 4 points against the Lakers, they lose by 20 plus.
If Hornets make the playoffs, is Kemba Walker your MVP?
No.
Honestly,
Grace?
I don't see why he wouldn't be with how he's played this season, but I just don't see it.
In the race,
I'm
definitely.
not sure why.
I think
in the race, oh yeah. But I just don't think he really has
a lot
a shot
of
of winning.
the thing a lot of MVP is based upon, in my opinion, is narrative.
Oh yeah.
So Westbrook, KD leads. I'm the one and only guy in the Thunder. I play well. I'm gonna get MVP. It's part of the story. And then same thing with LeBron.
LeBron certainly got the narrative.
If the Lakers win 50 plus games, or they struggle a lot while he's out with the groin injury, and I believe they're 0-1 since then.
Did you expect anything less?
No, but then if they really struggle with the groin injury, and they win 50 games or so, I'd say he's definitely the MVP. Harden has single-handedly put the Rockets back into playoff contention, making them look like an elite team again, beating the Celtics the other night by double digits and beating the Thunder on Christmas Day, who are the second best team in the Western Conference currently. So I think he's definitely a top person in MVP. I don't know if you can necessarily ignore the first couple of games where he was really struggling. But he's been playing really well.
It's an interesting MVP race. I definitely put Giannis in my MVP race, Anthony Davis. But another person I think that's really stepped up this year is Paul George. I don't know if y'all have seen that.
Oh yeah.
Defensively and offensively, I liked his game. I think in the month of December he's averaged close to 30, maybe a little bit over 30. So he's definitely in the MVP race.
He's had 3 or 4 40-point games this season, especially with Westbrook having the down season. He's at least in terms of efficiency, he's shooting 60-some% of the free throw line, less than 30% from 3. He's having the least efficient or one of the least efficient seasons of his career.
Which is a lot to say for a guy.
Which is a lot to say for a guy in his prime
who's
just won
averaged
the
triple
MVP
doubles
the
two
past two
seasons in
seasons.
a row.
And-
yeah.
But when you do that, and when you're carrying a team especially prior to getting Paul George, when your usage rating is so high and your team's only player, that's what's going to happen. You're going to be an inefficient shooter. But with a guy like Paul George on your team who can take some of the burden of carrying the team off of you, there's really no reason why he should be shooting it as poorly as he is.
Yeah,
I think Paul George has been OKC's best player this season.
I agree. And I think you could make the argument that Steven Adams has been one.
Steven
He's
Adams.
extremely underrated.
Yeah.
He's a solid center. I'm talking one of the best.
Yeah.
in the
Borderline.
league.
I
think.
he's arguably top 10 center in the league.
He's
I put him in.
I
My
would
top
put him in my top 10.
I'd put him in my top
absolutely.
10.
If you're in the Eastern Conference, would he be an All-Star?
Yes, I think so.
I think he'd be worthy of it.
But
for
what,
sure.
like, that's interesting though. If Steven Adams ever did go to the Eastern Conference, what team would benefit the most from having him? Who needs a really solid center?
Well, there are a
The
lot
Wizards
of Eastern
could use
Conference
Steven
teams.
Adams.
Well, they've got
If-
Dwight though, but
Dwight's-
he's out.
He-
Yeah. Poor
he
Dwight.
plays-
I'm an Orlando fan, so I gotta feel good for
Oh,
Dwight.
okay.
But
He
I-
might never.
you know,
That's why I
According to
know you're not a
Wojnarowski,
bandwagon.
Yeah,
You're an Orlando guy.
God, it's rough.
according to Adrian Wojnarowski, Dwight Howard could have played his last game of his career this season. That's how serious his injury is that we all kind of laughed about earlier, and it still is
I'll
kind
be honest,
of.
Dwight was one of my
comical.
favorite players. I miss old Dwight. Like
Oh yeah,
Orlando
prime Dwight
Oh
took
my
him,
God.
carried them to the finals with practically no one else on that roster.
Prime Dwight.
And
The
so
two
going,
good players we've had throughout history,
going,
Eddie and Dwight.
going back to the MVP conversation, a couple of weeks ago, Charles Barkley said that his front runner was Nikola Jokic. Do you agree that Nikola Jokic is maybe not your front runner, but at least in that 8 or 9 player conversation for MVP?
He's also extremely underrated. I've always he has really elite passing
Well,
ability, and he can handle the ball.
He's a top 5
I
passing.
don't think he's
big.
underrated anymore because everyone says he's
Well,
underrated now.
Nuggets
Like,
are
no
also
matter-
Yeah.
number 1 in the conference.
Like same with
so-
Kemba. Like
Yeah.
now that everyone's saying they're underrated, if everyone's saying he's underrated, then he really clearly isn't. If everyone's
Yeah.
acknowledging
Yeah,
it.
But do you consider him a top
8 or 9 player overall.
or MVP candidate?
I don't know about that one. No,
I don't
can't.
think so either.
Yeah.
He's a very solid player. I think he's the best player on that Nuggets roster, but top 10 in the MVP race, so young. I mean, especially when he's not an incredible scorer. He's a great scorer for big. He's a great shooter for a big, but he's not putting up crazy point per game number. His assist totals are incredible for a big, but
Yeah.
I think he's up there as one of the best passing bigs in the league, along with Draymond Green, those type of guys. But I think I'd put him as the best passing big in the league, actually.
And another big who's kind of moved down, I think, in the MVP conversation is Joel Embiid. He was getting a lot of hype a couple months
He
ago.
started the season extremely
He was
well.
possibly one of the top 4 MVP candidates a couple weeks ago. It seems like a really long time ago, so we're late to this news. But he was saying that he was a little, not upset, but just concerned that his touches were going down with Jimmy Butler and he wasn't playing the same way. But he's still able to put up monster numbers. Do you think that you think he'll be, by when it's all said and done, an MVP candidate?
I think he could be. Yeah, definitely. I mean, he's proven that he could be. at some
I
point.
think he should be. With the skill set he has, I mean, imagine back before the 2000s when the league was largely dominated by big men, right? You look at your greatest players throughout history, Kareem, Wilt, Shaq, the most dominant players throughout history. These have all been
Twin Towers. You had Tim Duncan paired up with David Robinson.
David Robinson, yeah. All these players throughout, up until really the 2000s, and even throughout the 2000s, David Robinson, Kevin Garnett, Tim Duncan, these guys have been bigs that have dominated the league. But within the 2010s, at least, it's mainly been guards. The last MVPs that have been won. Harden.
The league is a shifting league. It's
It is.
shifted away from its big man more to its
Yeah.
3-point shot and its guard position.
But when you think about back then, when you think about the skill set that Joel Embiid has, these dominant players throughout history, what have they been so good at? Shaq, he bodied people. But
He was just too dominant.
he was too big.
Like,
But when you think you have a big guy like Joel Embiid, obviously not as big as Shaq, not as but
Muscular?
not as large as Shaq, not as muscular as Shaq.
Shaq was just wide.
Shaq
he was
was
just
wide.
wall,
Yeah, he was a
like-
big guy. But when you think, imagine if one of those dominant big men had the jump shot of Joel Embiid and the ball handling of Joel Embiid, and when you think that he's a big man with all of these skills that these dominant centers throughout NBA history haven't had, you think he should be in the MVP conversation. And earlier this season, I was putting him in it. He was a top 5. He had an incredible start of the
amazing,
season. Last year was really his breakout year. As of right now, though, especially with Jimmy Butler on the team, because over the past couple of seasons, you've seen the effect that Jimmy Butler kind of has on his team. And it's not that Jimmy Butler doesn't improve his team, because obviously he made the Timberwolves a lot better. He made them playoff contenders. And he's had a big effect on the 76ers as well. Granted, they were already a playoff team, but he's getting less touches with Jimmy Butler on the team, and he's taking up a lot of the points and a lot of the stats, and I just don't
And
think of him as
fourth
an MVP
quarters,
type of
they go
player
to
right now.
Jimmy Butler a lot.
Yeah.
I'm not sure of the
He
stats
hit 2 or
anymore.
3 game winners already,
Yeah,
didn't
but-
Yeah, he hit the one against Charlotte.
And the one against Brooklyn. But
Yeah.
I know early on when he was playing with the 76ers, I don't know if it's still the same, he was leading the league in fourth quarter points.
Mhm.
So they kind of strayed away from Joel Embiid as the closer. And I think doing that could be detrimental to a player like him, because if he's a player that I think, as much as his greatness is from his skill set, I think a lot of it is also from his confidence, the confidence he exudes when he plays. He trash talks everyone that won't back down. And for a player like that, I think you need to keep boosting his confidence, not like with fake remarks about how he's great and all, but just giving him touches. And in the fourth quarter, if it's like what happened last night, where Luka Doncic is 7 for 10 from 3, 34 points, and they give the ball to Dennis Smith Jr., who doesn't even get the shot off in time to win the game. It's when you got a young player who's really starting to break through and become an all-star in the league, and you got to get them the ball in late game situations, and I think that hurt Joel Embiid.
I mean, but in Joel Embiid's case, you can only give him, Jimmy Butler's case, you can only give him the ball in so many touches, because you also have Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid,
And Ben
who are
Simmons,
also
who hit
probably
his
primary scorers who want
longest
that
jump
ball.
shot of his career on, I think it was before Christmas, 22 feet away. He's actually
Man.
hit a couple of turnaround jump shots recently, not really far, but
Ben
like
Simmons, in my opinion, is just way too predictable. Like, it's kind of how Boston stopped him in the playoffs. He doesn't have a shot, so you don't have to really, maybe a mid-range is
And he's
is
not as
developing. But
athletic
he doesn't
as
have a
Giannis.
three-point shot, so you don't have to worry about him on the perimeter. But if you just clog the lanes, he's really powerless. He had a one-point game.
yeah.
That's how they stopped him.
And
Yeah,
with Giannis,
so-
he's really athletic, so if you're gonna guard him, he can go around you, and he's got the long.
That's
arms
the
and
scariest thing
length,
ever.
and
If
Ben Simmons
Giannis
doesn't
gets a
have that.
50% or better three-point shot,
50% three-pointer.
48% or higher, if he gets in a consistent shot, is what I'm trying to say, he'd be the scariest player in the league.
If he gets a 48% three-point shooter, I guarantee you, he do that.
Oh yeah, it'd be, I thought with Ben Simmons, his rookie season was incredible. But what I thought is that this season, over the offseason, he needed to work on his shot. I thought this season he should come in with a mid-range game, and next year he should come in with a three-point shot. That's what he needs to work on over the summer. And I've honestly, it's not that he's played badly, but I've been really disappointed to see that he didn't work on his jump shot at all. Because when you think, he's got all these LeBron James comparisons, right? But when you think, what is really separating him from LeBron? In term, not of course that he's on the same level as LeBron, but the same. You can draw parallels with their games. But what does LeBron have that Ben Simmons doesn't have? It's not the athleticism. It's not the ball handling. They can both do that. It's not the passing. It's the jump shot. LeBron, especially in the past couple of years, has really developed a solid jump shot. And I feel like if Ben Simmons can do that, he can win another Rookie of the Year.
Another rookie of the year.
And you were talking about how you're disappointed with Ben Simmons. Speaking of players that I'm also disappointed with, jumping from first to second season, is Donovan Mitchell still? looks
Yeah,
like
that was sad, because last year I was calling him, I really wanted him to win Rookie of the Year.
I mean,
wanted
he was being compared to Dwayne Wade. And it doesn't seem like he's really progressed.
He's kind of the same player he was last
He
year.
still
if
shoots
that.
a low percentage and high volume shooter. Doesn't get a lot of assists or rebounds. He'll get you 19 to 20 points or 20 plus points a game most nights. But if you just look at that, it looks nice. But when you look at the stat sheet, he's like 5 for 20 and 1 for 7 from 3.
Yeah, the efficiency is just not there. He's always, last year and this year, he's in the low 30s in three-point percentage. His field goal percentage has always been, low 40s.
And
It's
at
just,
least if you're going to shoot poorly, you have to be like Westbrook and affect the games in other ways.
yeah, you
He
have to
doesn't do that
get
anymore.
rebounds, get assists.
Super athletic
Yeah.
playmakers like prime D Rose or prime Westbrook.
And I want to mention something real quick. I'm sorry, I'm taking a lot of the spotlight right now, but
Sorry.
Derrick Rose.
I've been extremely impressed with Derrick
He's the
Rose this
sixth
year.
man of the
He's
year.
playing really well, but like I don't want it to seem like I just hate Derrick Rose and I don't want him to be good. I do want him to be good, and I really hope that he is one day really, really,
You're a
really
freaking
good.
hater.
But can we stop? Like, I realize you guys feel really good for him, but can we stop saying that he's gonna be an all-star? Like, can
He's
we
not.
stop saying vote Derrick Rose all-star game?
Well, obviously not anytime soon, and he's
Well,
also
I mean,
getting up there in age
Like
too.
these,
So no,
these
but
accounts
he is
like
a
the Score, Bleacher
solid
Report,
player.
random NBA fan accounts on Instagram. Vote Derrick Rose. Vote Derrick Rose.
I think
There are many guards that will be
He's a
placed ahead
solid
of him,
backup
and
point
that
guard at this stage of his career.
solid
and
backup
like
point guard, not
solid
an
sixth
all-star.
man.
And that irritates me. I know I want to be really good, but I just had to get that off my chest. He's not an all-star.
he's not an all-star.
He can't physically get back.
be
to
happy
that point
for
he
him.
was at.
Be
It's just not
happy for him. Be glad at what he's doing, but please don't say that he's. An
I
all-star.
agree. He's for me easily the sixth man of the year candidate.
absolutely.
Him,
Spencer
Lou Williams,
Dinwiddie,
Spencer Dinwiddie. Does he come off the bench?
Yeah, I think he's ahead of him.
Lou Williams, Spencer Dinwiddie, and
Domantas Sabonis.
yeah, Sabonis has been great. Has been good. And Derrick Rose are really my six man candidates. Lou Williams is always in the conversation.
He's always in the conversation. Another person that think's weird, like for a while, you always saw Jamal Crawford in that conversation
Yeah.
too, and he's just not in it.
Now he's not really relevant.
Now Lou
When's the
Williams
last time
and
you heard
Eric
something
Gordon
about
have
Jamal
taken his
Crawford?
place.
I haven't heard. Like I was surprised when I didn't hear it till late he signed with the Phoenix Suns, and I was kind of like, really?
Yeah.
Phoenix Suns? And
I mean, they need shooters.
I mean,
anyway,
true, but Jamal Crawford's also, if I'm correct, is like 37 now.
He's old.
He's old.
But he looks younger than DeAndre Ayton.
Oh yeah, yeah he does. But for me, Derrick Rose, he had that 50-point game. He's been averaging, incredibly. He's had higher averages than he has the past few seasons. For me, he and Spencer Dinwiddie are my sixth man of the year candidates. And I don't know if this will be weird to put him in the conversation of most improved player, since this isn't like his best season. Most improved player usually give to someone who averages like who's the person? CJ
Pass
McCollum,
rush,
for example.
yeah.
He won CJ won most improved player, but that was because you saw a steady increase. 5 points a game, 9 points a game, 15 points a game. You saw a steady increase, but for a guy like Derrick Rose, you had him averaging in the 20s, and he was an MVP. He was the MVP in 2011.
Youngest MVP.
Yeah, youngest MVP ever. And then he declines incredibly from that point, to the point where last year he didn't play a lot of games. He was injured most of the season with Cleveland. But to see a guy, even though this isn't his best season and it's not that steady increase that you see, to see a guy jump from the stats he had in Cleveland to where he's at now, would it be weird to put him in the most improved player type of category? Maybe, but when you think about it, he really has, statistically at least.
I agree with you. All right, so let's move on to another current topic, and it's not looking for the future, and that is the Golden State Warriors. Well, I guess this is looking towards the future, because right now they don't look like a championship team. Draymond Green looks like the backpack got heavier, and he's like, you guys don't
I
understand
think there's just
that
some
reference,
real big
apparently.
tension there between
You've never seen a
Draymond
picture
and
of
everybody
Draymond
else.
shooting with the backpack on, and they're all like saying, Draymond looks like he shoots with a backpack.
Oh, Draymond's got one of the worst shot forms I've ever seen.
It's
I've seen Michael
horrible.
Kidd Gilchrist play.
Yeah.
Oh, it's horrible. And at least Michael Gilchrist occasionally makes a
He
shot.
makes a shot, yeah. Like
And what was I saw this a couple days ago. Klay Thompson has a lower 3-point shooting percentage. I can't remember who it is, but he's shooting like 33.7% from three right now. On Christmas Day at 5 points. He had the breakout game against the Bulls where he hit the 14 threes, and we're like, oh, Klay Thompson's back.
He's back, and then he goes right back to shooting, 2 of 7 from 3 and scoring 13 points a night.
So what do you think is the biggest problem for the Warriors right now? The fact that Draymond is afraid to take a shot, and when he does, they're going out? Or the fact that Klay Thompson isn't afraid to take a shot, but they're going out nonetheless?
I think there are a lot of problems in Golden State. I think there are 4 key problems in Golden State.
I think one, if y'all might think this is wrong, but their reserves, their bench is not as deep as I think it
Yeah.
could have been.
Andre Iguodala has
It's-
declined incredibly. His shot, he can't make a shot.
He's also getting
he's-
up in age too.
He's what, like 35, 36
I think they
now.
need to
He's
give
getting
Quinn
older.
Cook more minutes, because when
I
Steph
love
Curry
Quinn
was
Cook.
out, he was playing really
He
well.
was averaging, 15, 20 points a game.
Yeah,
he's incredibly undervalued. They really don't give him enough
like,
minutes.
I
I
wanna-
just look at their bench and it's like Jonas Jerebko and Sean Livingston. And
Sean
it's people
Livingston,
like
again,
that.
getting up there in age.
Mhm.
Jerebko, I think, has actually been one of their
Yeah,
was their
one of
best
the best.
offseason signing, except for obviously Cousins, but he's not here yet. So I think as of now, Jerebko has been a great player for Golden State. He had that 23-point game earlier this season. He had his career high. He hit that game winner against Utah. I think he's been a great signing. But the 4 key problems I think are going on in Golden State. One is their bigs. They're young and they're undersized and they're inexperienced.
Who would have thought JaVale McGee would have been this?
JaVale McGee, they should have kept McGee. I thought McGee fit in really well with Golden State.
Yeah, I think
He was having one of the best seasons of his career in Golden State last year. But Golden State, they've never really had a great big. They had David Lee, a few
They
years
had
ago.
Wilt Chamberlain, but that was
Well,
back
yeah,
in
but
the
that-
Philadelphia
Yeah, that
Warriors.
well, yeah.
They had
In the Steve Kerr era,
Andrew
they
Bogut.
had
Yeah, they haven't.
Bogut is a solid center. He doesn't even play in the league anymore. But at the time, he was a solid center. He'll get you like, maybe 10 a night. But
I'll get you some rebounds.
yeah, but he was never really a great center. I think the with Golden State right now, they get abused inside, and they're not shooting the three like they used to either. So it's Golden State. They always had that. They've got some of the best scorers in the league. They got some of the best shooters in the league. On any given night, they will outshoot you, and that is how they'll win. Though the three, that's why everyone stereotypes Golden State. They just shoot threes. But the thing is, that worked for a while. But now they're not shooting as many threes, and they're not making as many of them as they used to. And they just get abused inside now because they don't have a big. Obviously, they're getting Cousins back in.
Yeah, but
They're
also
coming-
don't know. We don't know what
coming
condition
months.
you're getting Cousins back.
Yeah, you
in,
never
so-
know after an injury like that. After as big an injury as he had last year, you never know what you're getting back. You didn't know you were going to get back with Kawhi.
Plus, you got to integrate a brand new player into this system, and that just
Right.
to gain more chemistry. It's the same thing with Boston. Everybody thought Boston was just going to take off. I was kind of skeptical because you have to reintegrate Kyrie Irving, and you also have to integrate Gordon Hayward, who's just
Right.
coming off an injury. So sometimes that also can bite you in the butt.
Yeah, and then there are three players I think that lately, especially, have been detrimental to Golden State. For starters, Draymond Green. I don't know how this man has ever been an All-Star. He's never, except for their 73-9 season. That was his best. He's averaging 14 points a game, shooting in the high 30s and 3-point percentage. This year, and I don't even know if that season was worthy of an All-Star. He's a 3-time All-Star.
I've never considered him an All-Star,
Yeah.
but he's always made the All-Star.
He's always made the All-Star
The
team, and I'm
Warriors-
like, and then people are getting snubbed like Damian Lillard.
Yeah, oh my God, Damian Lillard, Lou Will, I would even put above
Lou
Draymond
Will.
Green, honestly, because Lou Will brings more benefits.
I think Luka Doncic has a better or should be
Luka
an
Doncic has
All-Star
been
over
playing
Draymond
fabulous
Green.
this year.
But no one's gonna put him in the All-Star game because
No.
he's a rookie.
But
People
before-
are gonna be like, oh, he could be a one-hit wonder. This might be his only good
Yeah.
season. So it's hard to put a rookie in the.
Before we move
All-Star
on with your thing about the Warriors, I just want to ask one question. I just want you to say yes or no. And this speaks to how good Luka Doncic is, depending on how you answer this. Is Luka Doncic more likely to win the MVP than to lose Rookie of the Year?
So you're saying he's more likely to win the MVP?
Than have someone else win?
Wait, this is a confusing question.
Okay,
So,
I think I get what you mean. Is it more likely that he's going to win the overall MVP than win Rookie of the Year?
No,
lose
then
Rookie of the
lose
Year.
Then
Rookie of
lose
the Year.
Rookie of the
Yeah.
Year?
I think he's more likely to lose Rookie of the Year. Just me personally, because you've got rookies.
I like Jaren Jackson. I don't think Trae Young's been playing all that bad. I think DeAndre
His
Ayton's
shooting is
solid.
horrible though.
And he's also really undersized. That was another problem.
Mhm.
He might be 6'2", but he's small, man.
He's tiny. He doesn't look 6'2".
And he also takes a lot of
He takes a lot of threes, but he's like 1 of 9 every night.
threes.
All right, now let's get back to your points about the Warriors.
The other player that I think for Golden State that is detrimental to them right now is Klay Thompson. He's like, you look at his stats every night, and Klay's always been a guy who's shot, in the 45% from the field, 40% from three.
And that's what he really brought you, though.
And that's what he brought. He was that
Solid shooter.
solid shooter.
Like
and
when Curry wasn't on his game, you always had Klay.
you
to
had
back him
Klay,
up.
and of course now you've got Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
But Klay Thompson, you look at his stats this year, and you'll look. His scoring has been okay, but that's mainly because of when Steph was out. He was playing well when Steph was out, but now, and at the beginning of the season, he doesn't shoot it the way he used to. He doesn't score the way he used to. He's not a guy who's going to get you a lot of rebounds or assists, as shooting guards usually don't.
Which is I want to bring something up though. Do you both think that I've thought this, that if Klay Thompson leaves and becomes a star of his own team, do you think his stats rise like tremendously? Do you think he benefits
Yeah.
by leaving
Yeah.
this?
I think he's
system?
incredibly undervalued, and this season he's not playing all that well. I think he.
Do you think he needs to get more touches? Because this year Kevin Durant's shots are at the peak.
You have
of
Curry and
his
Kevin
Golden
Durant.
State
Those are
career.
going to be your first two options.
Of course.
And then,
And then when
Clay's
Boogie
obviously
comes
the
back,
third, but
Clay's
like
going down more. Getting hit down another run on
Clay, I think might turn to a player that needs like the most touches to be successful, kind of like Melo. You know what I'm talking about? If you saw it in OKC last year, Melo was like a third option, and he really was not good. So, but I would love to see Clay maybe go to a team that needs a spot up shooter, especially in the playoffs. Like personally, I'd love to see Clay sign with the Milwaukee Bucks.
Oh wow,
Terribly
I can see that.
honest. Yeah, that would be an amazing team. And they have a solid center in Brook Lopez, who's not like a top 10 center, but I mean he's really good and he's really benefited because they're the 1 seed right now. So
Wow, yeah. I never never really thought about Clay going to the Bucks. But yeah, the Bucks. Oh, but Middleton though. Who would be their starting shooting guard? They could move.
Well, Middleton's a free agent,
Well-
so you could choose Thompson.
You could move Middleton. Who's their starting small forward right now?
Giannis.
Oh, never mind.
Who's their power forward?
It's not.
They have Eric Bledsoe, Malcolm Brogdon,
Yeah.
Chris Middleton, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Brook Lopez.
Switch Clay out for Brogdon then.
Unless,
Bledsoe,
but if
Clay,
that's if you're getting back Middleton.
Middleton, Giannis, and Brook Lopez. I mean, that would be a dominant.
But could they
Sorry,
re-sign both of them? Or could they sign both of them?
Clay and Giannis.
No, and Middleton, because he's a free agent at the end of the year.
Oh,
And there's a lot of speculation that he could be heading to
Well, that
the
depends. How much? That depends on the cap space of the
Yeah,
Milwaukee Bucks.
but I don't
know
see-
what it's at because they're going to give Giannis a super max if they haven't already
They
given
did the
him.
big dump with Matthew Dellavedova when they traded him for
Thank God.
Julius. That was a big
Delly,
salary
man.
dump.
I just feel bad for players like Chris Paul when you realize that Dellavedova has a ring.
yeah.
Delly has a ring, man. JaVale has like
Zaza Pachulia has 2 rings.
2 rings, and my man
If
Chris
that
Paul
was-
gave none.
Hey, this is the first year the Warriors have been without Zaza since they had KD.
You're right, and now they're playing terribly. I
And they're
think Zaza
struggling
Pachulia
inside.
might be the greatest of all time. Okay.
No,
Yeah.
maybe the worst. I don't like Zaza on any level. I don't know what benefit he brings to your team.
He can win you the
He'll
Western
kick-
Conference Finals.
He'll injure other star players.
Yep. Okay, and to close out my points on the conversation of Golden State, the 4th player that I think has been not detrimental, but at times detrimental to Golden State, and this might surprise you, is Steph Curry.
Yeah, I
I'm
agree.
kind of
I agree.
honestly.
Because at the beginning of the season, he was my MVP pick or one of the MVP picks. He was averaging over 30 points a game. He was having a 50-50-90 season. He was playing incredibly well. And from a statistical point of view, he is having one of his best seasons in the past few years. You know, he had his unanimous MVP season where he was averaging about 30, but ever since KD's been on the team, he's averaging 25, 24-ish.
Mhm.
But this year, he's up at close to 30 again. But he's just not that consistent. I've never thought of Steph Curry as really a consistent shooter. Because one night he'll go 7 for 12 from 3, and then the next night he'll be like 1 for
I
8.
always thought Clay was a much more consistent
Yeah, but now-
shooter.
but yeah,
and
me
now
too.
Clay's kind
I
of.
thought Steph was a better volume shooter.
Mhm.
He makes more of them and takes more of them. But
and
I
he
always
has better
thought-
range. I
and
think
he has
better,
a way
better
longer range. Klay Thompson is arguably, maybe not this season, I always thought of him as the 2nd best shooter in the league, behind Steph Curry.
I love Clay. Clay also has one of those picture perfect shots.
Yeah.
That just lines up perfectly.
Yeah, it's
Cool.
yeah, but this season he's not shooting it consistently either. And the thing with Clay is he'll make his threes consistently, but he's not just gonna launch it from 30 like Steph will. He shoots right behind the line.
Could Golden State be falling to a disease I call a superstar disease? It's kind of like if you see let's go to LeBron and Cleveland. K-Love was really good in Minnesota.
He was
Right?
averaging like 26 and
He
13.
plays with LeBron. He's nowhere near as good. KD comes to the Warriors. Is he starting to seep in a little bit? And maybe that's why he's most likely. I'd give him the most touches. I think he gets the ball for. He's the first option.
Yeah, he's
By
the
far.
first option for me.
And I think we were talking about the 3-point shooters that aren't doing well. As much as it pains me to say this, KD's not having a great year behind the arc.
He's in like the mid or low 30s.
Yeah.
And he's never been an
He-
incredible 3-point
Yeah, but he's
shooter.
always been 50, 40, 90, or at least.
Or 50, high 30s.
Yeah.
He's just one of the best scorers in the league.
one of the best
And
scorers. Yeah.
It's impressive that a man, I think he's close to 7 foot, can shoot the ball pretty damn
and
well.
handle the ball as well
Mhm.
as he does. Yeah.
Yeah, and when he gets hot, he's on. I think Kevin Durant this year has had a more. You could argue he has a more consistent 3-pointer than Steph Curry.
Consistently bad. I mean, at times. No, it's Steph Curry's 3-pointer. He started the season shooting so well that I feel like his kind of less than admirable stretch in the past 5 or 10 games has kind of evened out, and he's still in the 40s in his percentage. But earlier in the season, you saw him shooting like 55%.
Maybe the injuries are starting to catch up with him a little bit. He's seriously banged up.
Yeah, he's got and you see he gets beaten up on every play. You see him running around off ball, just getting abused by screens and people just throwing him around. And you have to think at a certain point, and with all of his injuries, and he is aging as well. He's 30. He's
30.
going on 31 in a few months.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's not super old. 30's not super old for NBA.
So I have a question for you guys. All right, so I know we've been talking about the Warriors and how they look like they might be on the decline, but I think we can all project that they'll most likely be champions again after the end of the
Especially if everything goes well and they add Boogie and then Steph and Clay and KD really step up and Draymond, every person's got to make an extra effort. I'm talking about that All-Star break. I think they need to put some work in that All-Star break
So-
and figure things out.
Absolutely.
I think we can all agree that they'll most likely be champions at the end of the season, right?
I'm not so sure.
I don't know, because you also depends, another team that's shown they can, that the Raptors
The
can beat them without Kawhi. Kyle Lowry
They
stepped
blew
up.
them out without Kawhi.
Yeah, exactly. It was closer with Kawhi than without Kawhi. So if the Raptors end up making the the finals,
yeah.
which the only way I see that not happening is if Kawhi goes down again. If Kawhi
Or
goes down,
the Bucks. If they.
the Bucks are also a contention team.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to be biased. I'm not going to put Boston in there yet. We're still one of the better teams in the East, but we're not.
It's not. It's not the same Boston
So,
teams it was
but
last
let's
year.
say that the Warriors do win the title, and then after this year they re-sign all their guys.
You
Are they going to be
can't.
able to win the title
You
again?
can't
First of all,
resign.
KD said he's going already wherever the money's the max, and if you
And
give him the supermax, you can't get.
Not
Kane
to
set.
mention that Clay is a free agent next
he's
offseason,
also
and the
free agent.
Lakers are a big pick for
That
Clay.
would be if you could add.
That
Clay
would be
to the
interesting.
Lakers.
Clay to the Lakers because they don't have a solid shooting guard. They've got Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, who's
Kentavious Caldwell-Pope.
Kentavious Caldwell-Pope.
bad.
I think they're going to
He's
trade
bad.
him.
Bad,
He's a
man.
good defender, but his shot is he's bad.
He's got the best agent in the world. You know he's making $20 million.
$20 million a
He's
year.
making- yes.
Oh my god.
Because he has the same
He
agent as
and-
LeBron. He gets him
Him-
money.
And they have
Him
the
and
same
Mike
agent as
Conley are the
Anthony
two
Davis.
most overplayed players in this league.
Yeah, Mike Conley.
Especially the past 2 years when he's been out a lot.
One could argue Gordon Hayward making like $32 million.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Chandler Parsons makes $20 million. Think about that.
Chandler Parsons.
Hasn't been good since his Rocket days. And
Yeah.
I think is he their starting small forward or is it Jaren Jackson?
No,
I think they
Jaren Jackson,
benched.
yeah.
I think they benched
It's
Chandler Parsons.
Jaren
Thank God.
And
Yeah, he's terrible.
Edward, this I don't know. I forgot to mention it earlier, but the Mavericks said that they were thinking of trading Dennis Smith Jr. because they didn't. I guess they didn't expect Luka Doncic to be as great as he's been so
Yeah.
far.
Dennis Smith Jr.
So-
he does not look as good as he
Do you-
did his rookie season.
so,
he's
are
just
you-
not.
Are you thumbs up or thumbs down?
I would like to see a trade. I want to see something interesting. I'd like to see a mix-up.
Yeah,
Who would be a good trade though for Dennis Smith Jr.?
who's a worthy trade for Dennis Smith Jr.?
Well, they don't need a big man because they have DeAndre
No,
Jordan.
they need a
Well,
solid
like-
point guard back. I think.
Right.
But they're trading Dennis Smith Jr. because he's taking away the shots from Luka Doncic. So what do you?
Yeah,
I think they're thinking of Luka Doncic already as their superstar. And if they're
Yeah,
trying
that's
to,
a team that
if they're
he's
trying
they're
to,
building
and they're
around.
building around him, and it's kind of hard because when you're building around most rookies, you can still build around them and give them great players to surround them with. But Luka Doncic already looks like
Not
a
only
player that might get Kevin Durant type shots in the next couple of years, like where he's taking 20 shots a game. And so it's I don't know what you're surrounding him with when he's a young
hold
player.
on.
You want to see him grow.
Look at there's other trades I think that they need to be made on the Mavericks team. I'd like to see Harrison Barnes get traded out of there. Honestly, I'd like to see Wesley Matthews get traded out of there. Honestly,
He'd fill up the Celtics.
Wesley Matthews.
He's a great 3-point shooter.
yeah, but the Celtics have got a lot of shooters.
What about if you're gonna trade Dennis Smith Jr. then this trade package wouldn't work. But I'm saying I just said I'd like Wesley Matthews on the Celtics. You could maybe get
Celtics need
Jalen Brown,
rebounders.
some guys like
Celtics need big men who can rebound. They
Well,
well,
Horford's
Aaron-
good, but he's not a rebounder.
Aaron Baines is out right now. So.
Yeah, see, but, I like Aaron Baines because he would take hits. Like he would get a lot of fouls, but he
He's an
contest.
all-out effort guy.
Yeah,
he would
I know,
jump. He would get post guys by Giannis like 3 times a game and still jump the next time.
I mean, you
That
gotta
basically
you gotta respect that.
I just don't know
he,
who
he puts in effort. You gotta
he does put
respect
in
that.
effort. I like Aaron Baines. I just can't think of who you would trade for Dennis Smith off the top of my head because you're not
Who's a
getting
player that is a worthy trade for Dennis?
not
Smith Jr.?
like all star, but not horrible either. Like
Right,
you're
like
not,
a 13, 14 point.
Yeah.
guard type
They
of-
need a bench. They need
I don't
to
know.
strengthen
Dennis
their
Smith,
bench.
young and athletic, pretty good. Would you like to see an Eric Bledsoe for Dennis Smith Jr.?
I was gonna say Eric Bledsoe.
That's-
but the same
I don't think the
time-
Bucks need to shake anything up right now,
Well,
unless
so how does that benefit
unless
the
they're
Mavericks
upgrading.
too? You bring in an older point
Yeah, an
guard, who's
older
more of a
point guard who's-
defensive point guard.
who's not really that much better
well,
than Dennis Smith
the
Jr.
Mavericks do have a lot of old guys. They have Dirk
Dirk,
Nowitzki.
who's gonna retire?
They
this season.
have
There's no way he
JJ
plays the next
Barea.
season.
They have Devin Harris.
They traded
they
away
have-
Seth, or let go of Seth Curry.
They have
Who
a lot of
honestly wasn't as bad, and he's in Portland right now. He's not
And
that bad.
he was briefly what their starting point.
He's
guard
not his
a couple
brother,
seasons ago.
but he's
not
a solid player.
Yeah, wasn't he averaging like 15 a game?
Yes,
when he
he's
was
a
their starter?
solid bench player, maybe starter on certain teams.
Yeah.
But the problem is they don't appreciate that, especially now that they've got when they got Dennis Smith Jr. Obviously, he's their starting point guard, and so
It's-
Seth Curry, he seems like the type of guy. He's a good shooter. He's a good player, And he was playing great when he was their starter, but he also seems like the type of guy that can slip to being like a D-League player because teams don't really value him. I guess he's just not that well known of a player.
And with Dennis Smith Jr. getting back to that, he's kind of, I feel like, a weird player where he's young enough that we're not at his peak yet, where maybe you could trade him for picks. But he's also the type of player where he's got a lot of upside, so he's kind of in between the type where you want to get a lot of picks for him, and you want to get players.
A player that benefits both,
Yeah.
like a swap that would benefit both players, both teams. I mean, I don't know. Would you trade Dennis Smith Jr. for Evan Forty?
No.
Send him to the
No,
bench.
we like our only good player. We gotta keep
Nikola
him.
Vucevic.
Vucevic.
I think
Vucevic is kind of overrated.
I hate Vucevic.
he had
I
like 30
freaking
and
hate
20
him.
last night.
Okay, he's
Does he consistently put up 20 to 25 points a game though?
absolutely not.
No, he doesn't.
He's horrible. I hate him so much.
I
As
think
a
I'd rather
Magic
have
fan.
Dwight at this point.
Yeah, I'll take him back, man.
Because Dwight's is a glass cleaner. Dwight's going to get you rebounds if he can stay healthy.
Remember he had that 30 and 30 games
Yeah.
last year?
Speaking of Dwight Howard, who plays for the Wizards, are you surprised that they haven't made a major trade yet, other than Trevor Ariza?
That's not really a major trade.
Well, yeah, but have you?
I still think it's
Maybe.
funny that the three-way trade was called off because the wrong.
Because they got the wrong name.
I was
That's sad. I feel bad for. I don't know who I feel worse for.
Also, why are you getting rid of Kelly Oubre, who I know is not the best, but he's still useful, for Trevor Ariza?
Trevor Ariza is an older guy.
Older 3-and-D players, mostly what he's.
They
there
traded the young 3-and-D player
For the old
for an
3
old 3-and-D.
That makes no sense to me. Like,
Well, I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but I feel like Kelly Oubre was kind of like John Wall, where he wanted.
if we're gonna be honest, they need to split them up.
Yeah.
John Wall is also becoming overrated. For
Oh,
the
yeah.
contract he's making, the 34, I think next year would be 40 million or something like that.
Wow.
Way overrated. He hasn't shown he's worth that.
And I think it's at
Like-
the point where the locker room has been so depleted that you can't get rid of one if you're not going to get rid of both.
Yeah, the Wizards, man, have
I
just had
think
the
they
worst
need to
luck in the
clean
last
house.
last couple of years, man. I feel bad.
But the
for
thing
them.
with them
It's
is-
shocking how badly they played this year with such good players
You
on the
have
team.
like at one point, John Wall and Bradley Beal can be considered the top backcourt tandem.
At least in the
league-
East.
In the
At least in the
East.
East.
What
Because
I-
in the West, you've got CJ and Dame and
you've
Steph
got
and
Steph
Clay.
and Clay.
If
Yeah.
you're the Wizards, I think one,
CP3 and Harden.
they should fire Scott Brooks because
Oh, Scotty Brooks, the
when he
coach.
coached with the Thunder,
Let's take him out.
they it's easy to blame it on the coach with every no matter what team it is, as long as they're doing bad. But
They can
when-
hire Fred Hoiberg.
when he played when he coached for the Thunder, they always had the same problem, which was it was my turn, your turn between Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook, and I don't really think he improved much. The year they were the best, when they almost made it to the finals, other than the 2011 season where they had Harden, was when they had Billy Donovan and he played, where they moved it around and they beat the Spurs and they almost beat the Warriors. So I don't think Scott Brooks was ever necessarily a great coach for the Thunder. He just was lucky enough to have great talent, and I think we're seeing that now. So I think he needs to bite the bullet and go. And then I think you need to trade Beal and Wall, not necessarily in a tandem
I
pack,
don't know, I
but
might
maybe
wanna-
separately.
I might want to keep at least one of them.
I would keep Beal. Beal has shown me he's worth more than.
But I feel like they might have ruined
Beal's
John
really
Wall.
improved,
Yeah.
especially when John Wall was
I
out.
feel like they might have ruined the locker room, though, to the point where if you're going to have to clean it all out before you can get back to where it
They just
needs
need to do
be.
total rebuild.
Yeah.
Like that's what I thought the Raptors were gonna do before Kawhi, just total
Yeah.
rebuild, trade everybody, and start from scratch. Honestly, the Wizards could probably benefit from that. I mean, they're gonna have some crappy seasons, but they're gonna get good draft picks. Hopefully, build from the ground up. They need to trade. They need to do something drastic. I'm
But
sorry.
with the Wizards, they have two. We might not say John Wall's a star anymore, but they basically have two stars. So with them, if you're going to rebuild,
They have some youngish players too. Like
Yeah.
Zadaransky has really been.
Thomas Bryant had the 13 for
semi-decent.
13 game a while
Yeah,
ago.
they really don't have the
But,
best
like,
bench.
No,
If
it's
they-
not deep at all. It's-
How are you
it's
going to rebuild if you're
lackluster.
them? Because are you really going to accept a low ball for Bradley Beal just so you can rebuild?
I wouldn't say lowball. Do they necessarily get a player back? Maybe, but I think they're aiming more for draft picks. Do y'all?
They need to rebuild
I
because they need to. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no, you.
Okay, I think the problem with the Wizards is they've got kind of that problem that maybe the Trailblazers have, which is that they've got an amazing backcourt,
But
but
their
the
bench-
rest of the lineup is trash.
Yeah, their bench is not deep, and it doesn't help them at all. So they have to come back. That puts more pressure on your all stars.
But
Yeah.
then John Wall isn't necessarily really playing the same way he was before his injury. I'm not sure if he's really a top 10 player.
I used to consider him a top 10.
Me too.
Now,
Maybe top 15, maybe.
No,
maybe.
I'll tell you something. The Portland Trailblazers could benefit from is a decent forward. Like
Yes.
you get them somebody like Kalo's pretty old, but somebody like who's a decent like power forward or small forward that would benefit there in that system. someone like
Imagine if they could get someone like Brandon Ingram over there.
a young player like I don't know if he'd benefit. in
Ingram,
system.
I don't know.
I don't know if
he
the
really
Lakers
worked
would be
with the
willing to
Blazers.
trade with the Blazers because they don't have a lot of.
I don't know.
great
What if
young
someone
talent.
like Julius Randle
Oh,
joined,
yeah.
joined the Trailblazers?
I could see Julius Randle in the Blazers.
Yeah, and then
jersey.
Blazers
That's
jersey
cool.
or no, he's too old. Never mind. I was gonna say LaMarcus Aldridge. He used to play there.
Oh,
but
yeah,
he's,
he
he's
did.
way too old now. I don't know. I just think they need a forward. The Wizards just need a total rebuild, in my opinion. Sorry for all you Wizards fans out there, but y'all just need a
Yeah.
total rebuild.
And that's what I was saying about them being similar to the Trailblazers in that, they make the playoffs and they get taken out in the first or second round. And it's that every year.
I
They're
did not
never.
expect Trailblazers to get swept last year.
Oh,
Yeah.
that was
Anthony
horrible.
Davis. I mean,
And then-
Anthony Davis is good.
And
but like,
Lillard got locked
The,
down.
the weirdest thing about that is the Pelicans went right back to the way they were playing before the playoffs to start this season.
Right. And they haven't had a great year either.
Yeah.
I think Anthony Davis needs to get out of there, but that's a whole other conversation.
yeah, but like his contract runs through 2020, right? So
Yeah.
he would have to stand up and demand a trade.
Yeah.
He's gonna have to say, look, I want to go play in LA, or I want to go play in Boston, or I want to go play somewhere. I don't know. He's gonna have to demand
Oh,
a trade.
Yeah.
Apparently the Warriors are going after him now, which
That's not going to happen.
That's-
But
It's
also,
just-
the Pelicans are at a point. You always have this point where an All-Star wants to leave. You're never gonna get something back that's worth, but you need to trade for something.
Yeah.
Because you just gonna let him walk in free agency? I feel like it'd be better to trade. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
kind of the Kawhi situation. It was like, you know what, we're gonna get something back. Not nearly as good as what we're giving away, but it's something to build around. So I think the Pelicans are gonna trade him. I just don't know when. Maybe before All-Star break. Maybe afterwards.
Either way, whether it's a trade or him leading in free agency, I think he needs to leave there. He's not getting anywhere there.
Mhm.
He's such an incredible talent, and he's just.
But if he goes to LA, do they have enough money to pay him? Because they're already giving LeBron 164 mil, the max. They gave LeBron a max, right?
Yeah.
It's 4 years.
He's got a max contract.
imagine what the NBA would be like if Anthony Davis gets traded to a team like the Lakers. The NBA would be so top
They're
heavy.
not gonna have enough money to play. And then if they want to go out
And
and,
then
get someone like a guard, like a Kawhi, or no, I mean someone like a Clay or a Damian Lillard, if they want to go out and get that, they're not gonna have enough money to.
Yeah, I just don't know if the Lakers have the cap space for someone.
They
like
don't
Davis.
have the.
They don't. They absolutely don't, because they're paying LeBron so much, and they've got all these young guys that are good, just not great. Ingram.
If Lonzo
Who's-
Ball
who's
had a
a-
shot, if Lonzo
He
Ball
would
could
be
shoot,
so good.
he would be good. Like that man has everything else. I've seen him. He passes great. He rebounds.
He's playing great defense this year as well.
great
Yeah.
defense. He's a decent inside scorer.
Yeah,
but
and
that man cannot
he's
shoot.
big. He's big for
He's
a point guard.
6'6", 6'7", something like that. Yeah.
But he can't shoot.
No, he can't. I'm sorry. I get it. And people are all hating on him. Just change your shot. You know how hard it is. You've been playing with that shot your whole life. They're just like, all right, I'm gonna complete.
And we
complete
saw
I
that
don't
with
shot.
Markel Fultz when they wanted to change his shot. Granted, that was some mental.
Yeah, but Markel
issues going
Fultz
on
is
there.
actually in therapy now. That's a whole other.
That's-
His confidence.
That's weird.
His confidence
That
is plummeted. Like there's no confidence left in him.
That
That-
and the Jimmy Butler fiasco, those are two the weirdest. Those two stories. That's enough storylines for 5 NBA seasons. Markel Fultz, his all the weird stuff where Brian Colangelo, I think it was, had the burner Twitter account where he was talking about how
I
Markel
just feel
Fultz
bad for him.
and
I don't know about y'all,
they
but
didn't
like
want
I
to
just
draft
because I
Jahlil
watched.
Okafor and stuff. This has just been some crazy stuff going on with Markel Fultz, and
I'm just saying.
I hope he gets better.
I've seen
as
him
well.
play. I saw him play in college.
He was
That
so
point.
good.
He was so good. Oh my god. I was like, I would have been surprised if he didn't go number 1 overall. You know what I mean? And then something happened. I still don't know what
It was
happened.
that shoulder injury. Really messed up the shot. But
And
you
now,
think
it's
so many
mental.
players have had shoulder injuries, and we've never seen anything like this.
Yeah.
A player's shot changed
Just
so
so
dramatically.
dramatic.
And
That's,
such a talented player just lose all their confidence. I've never seen
it
anything.
plummeted, and he's not nowhere near the player I thought he was going to be. I
Yeah.
kinda
He's
feel
got
bad.
the yips now.
He could be out of the league soon, or
Oh,
if
yeah.
they don't trade him. But
Or
who's
playing overseas or something, I could see that happening.
He's got to pull a Jimmer Fredette.
Yeah.
Go play overseas and be a god.
All right, and there's one more thing I want to talk about because I feel like this episode's probably getting
How long are
super
we?
long.
We're at 43 minutes.
Oh, jeez, Louise. The time ran
We're
away.
passionate people, y'all.
Yeah.
So tell your friends about it.
So the final thing I want to talk about, Andrew Wiggins was being booed last night in Minnesota after missing some free throws in OT. Do you think? I think you don't have a very high opinion on Andrew.
Oh, I
Wiggins.
don't
Do
like
you
Andrew
think-
Wiggins. I think he was so overhyped
Do you
coming
think
out of
he
college.
should be traded?
Yes,
Yes.
I think Andrew Wiggins should be traded. Get rid of
It's
him.
not
man.
even that he's detrimental to the Timberwolves, which I mean he kind of is because he's inconsistent. He's just not that good.
Yeah.
But I just don't like him.
You know what he kind of
he's not
reminds me
good.
of? He kind of reminds me of a former Timberwolves player. I don't know if y'all remember OJ Mayo.
OJ Mayo,
He
yeah.
kind of reminds me of an OJ Mayo. And we saw how that went down. Do you know what happened in the OJ Mayo stuff? He stunk.
He was great.
I mean,
He's great for
that
you.
always
He's
is what
just-
happens when you mix orange juice and mayonnaise. They just don't go together.
What? What kind of analogy?
OJ Mayo.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, okay.
He
Oh,
kind of
that
reminds
was-
me of Zach. He kind of reminds me of Zach LaVine when he was a young player because they
Hey,
both.
Zach LaVine's been playing good
Yeah,
Zach
this
LaVine
year.
is great.
And
I
that's
love
my.
Zach
But
LaVine.
they've gone different directions. Like Zach LaVine was the super athletic player. As
They
was
don't
Andrew
live up to the
Wiggins.
hype. Is
They were
all
both
it is.
solid
I mean,
defenders, and they could both. They were not great shooters, but they could kind of score. So I think they're kind of similar. But Zach LaVine has.
Also, I'd just like to point out,
Wiggins is
unpopular opinion. I don't know. Aaron Gordon was robbed. That dunk
Oh,
contest.
yeah, he was robbed.
He was robbed.
All
I
right.
thought. Well, obviously, I think he was robbed.
Yeah, yeah, Magic fan, but I was mad when he didn't win.
He should've
I
won.
was like, what?
All right. So before we get to like 50 minutes, we're gonna stop it here.
Y'all don't like hearing us talk for almost an hour?
Yeah.
Come on, guys.
We're very passionate about the NBA, as you can gather, and I think the three amigos have worked well so far. So spread the word about the debate mates. Follow us on Instagram.
Also, Matty Ice and my boy next to me are available for any women watching the channel. So just to let y'all know. All right, yeah, he's single, by the way, and so is he.
See you next time.